Hello, everybody, and welcome to your Monday edition of the Blood Red podcast brought to you by the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Theo Squires, and joining me today we have our chief LFC writer, Ian Doyle. How are you, Doyley? Was that high enough for you, low enough for you?
You started off really well, and then you just got into really high towards the end. You were concentrating really hard to do that, but yes.
You
I've
okay?
got a sore mouth.
Is that because you were singing along to Oasis so much yesterday?
No, it was Saturday.
Saturday,
but no,
my apologies.
Something's happened up here. It's a bit sore, but we'll crack on.
Yes, and we are just a two-man pod today, I'm afraid. Joe Rimmer is off. Paul Gorst, our LFC correspondent, both home and away, is very much away, travelling to Hong Kong as we speak, or in the process of.
He flies in a short while.
Yes, so he is in the process of. And Kiefer McDonald, well, he just couldn't be bothered. We cannot get the staff.
Exactly, he didn't want to do it, did he? He said, listen, I'm too busy doing other stuff that's far, far more important than providing content on Liverpool, which, as we know, not that important these days.
It's a crying shame, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Well, unfortunately. Fortunately, our dear sponsors will always be by our side, even if Kiefer McDonald isn't, and that is NordVPN. If you haven't heard, we have a new app out. They have a new app out, just in time for your summer holidays. It's called Saily. It's a new eSIM service app, and it is available for download wherever you get your apps. It will allow you reliable and affordable internet access on your trip abroad. You can choose from several affordable eSIM data plans in over 200 destinations, including Hong Kong and Japan. And with Saily's eSIM, you'll always have a connection when needed. If Gorsty is not using it during his time away, I'd imagine that Joe Rimmer is going to be having words. Download Saily in your app store. Use our code BLOODRED at checkout to get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. And for more information, please go to our episode description box for further details and click saily.com/bloodred. Moving on, as always, we're live on YouTube, so send in your questions and your comments. There's plenty of transfer talk for us to get into today, so I'm sure you have lots to say in the comments. And there's only one place to start, really, isn't there, Doyley? And that's Hugo Ekitike, Liverpool rider, bid agreed.
Who?
Hugo Ekitike.
Is that how you pronounce it now? Ekitike?
How are you pronouncing
Not
it?
Ekitike.
Ekitike?
Ekitike? Hugo.
Hugo.
When he signs, we'll ask him.
The deal is agreed. What can you tell us?
Well,
Apart
I can
from
tell
how
you
to
that
pronounce
the
his
deal
name.
is agreed, yeah. It's £69 million in terms of guaranteed fee for Eintracht Frankfurt. And there's another £10 million on top of that, which will be made up of add-ons, which are, we understand that they're a little bit like the ones with Florian Wirtz, whereby they're quite difficult to achieve, some of them. But if they are achieved, it presumably means that the players done really well, or Liverpool have done really well, so Liverpool will be quite happy to pay the extra bits. So that's £79 million overall, which is not quite the same as some of the figures that were being bandied around yesterday, but it's a lot of money, especially for a player who, he's had 18 months he's done pretty well in at Frankfurt, got them into the Champions League probably the second time, I think, in their history. I think they qualified once for the European Cup, actually got to the final and got beat by Real Madrid, which is even before I was born, but you go and look that one up, 1 or 2 goals in that game.
We might have a bit of time to do that soon.
Yeah, likewise. He's basically been regarded as one of the most in-demand strikers in Europe over the past 12 months. Liverpool have decided that he's one of the players, shall we say, who they want to, not so much improve, but I don't want to say upgrade either, more like update their attack, because I think they're going down a certain route that they want to play. As we've noticed last season under Arne Slot, different to how Jurgen Klopp wants to play. They never really had a settled number 9 last season. It's funny they won the league with 4 games to go, and you can argue without a recognised regular number 9. And now they've got at least one for next season, because they wouldn't spend that much money and not play him for the most part. So it will be interesting to see kind of how he... Obviously, the deal's transfer's not been completed yet. He's got to do his medical. That's going to be on Tuesday, and if he's all right there, then they've already agreed personal terms. He's got a 6-year deal. He'll be heading off to Asia to link up. Probably a bit too early to be playing against AC Milan, but
you never know. It's still a week, isn't it?
Yeah. But you'd only kind of get there about Wednesday or Thursday, wouldn't he? So it's not that much time. But he could be playing when they play in Japan against Yokohama F Marinos. I'm pretty sure that's not how you call them. And there'll be somebody who's writing in now saying, no, they're called this. But it's up to Ghosty to sort that one out. But yeah, so overall, basically they committed £79 million to a player who, up until a week ago, while we'd heard kind of suggestions that he was on wanted list. I think people are a bit surprised by the speed at which Liverpool moved, especially after Newcastle had the bid of £69 million, I think, or nearly £70 million rejected. We're led to believe they didn't offer any add-ons, and that's why Frankfurt just rejected it. So Liverpool have managed to get the price of something, well, obviously manageable for them, because if you look at it, Darwin Núñez, I know we're going to get onto it in a bit. He obviously scored a couple of goals, 3 goals at the weekend. He scored against Preston as well. He's doing his bit at the moment, but you saw last season he wasn't really involved that much in the second half of the season, and he's probably going to be on his way. And if Liverpool can get anywhere near 60 and above, then it's almost getting one in and one out. And then, they've already spent, if this will take them to above £250 million. Yeah. I know we've had a little bit of a disagreement over whether you count Mamadashvili, but that deal was agreed last year, and I think it probably comes out of last year's transfer.
Well, what do you count Naby Keita's as then? Was he the year before?
That's so long ago, I can't remember. I can't remember that. So, well, the fact that they didn't spend hardly anything, didn't they, last? So that would make more sense. But yeah, while it looks like Liverpool are spending a lot of money, because they are spending a lot of money, I think we're going to get up to a point very shortly where we might see some players being moved on, and then that will raise funds. And then, as we've seen, we expect at least one more player to come in as well.
I have got a couple of outgoings or potential outgoings to mention, but we'll get that to them in a little bit. We'll do a bit more on Hugo first. Liverpool,
the
Frenchman, they've done well to negotiate the price down as well when you think about it, because Frankfurt, they were wanting €100 million, and there's a lot's been said about him in terms of he's a bit raw in front of goal, but he's still a player who was at PSG when they had Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, and he's done bits in Germany now. He did all right in France before it toiled off a little bit. It's not quite the same as Darwin Núñez coming and being raw and then not putting it together.
To be fair, Núñez has played in the Champions League and scored against Liverpool in that. I think
he scored against Barca and Bayern too, to be fair.
Yeah, so Ekitike or...
Ekitike?
Yes, no,
that's
not you said, yeah. He hasn't played. Did he play in the Champions League for PSG? I'm not sure whether he did or not.
I'll have a quick Google as you talk.
But I'll be honest, I've not seen much of him. I've heard quite a lot about him this season, to the point where you were aware of him when Tottenham were playing Frankfurt, and he scored the goal, obviously.
And then you got the hat-trick in the 21s.
Yeah, I actually watched most of the second leg of that game against Tottenham, when Tottenham played particularly well. I mean, Frankfurt weren't great, and I can't remember whether he got subbed or not, but he didn't have the impact that you would expect. But then, it's all about the team, isn't it? I'm pretty sure the players at Liverpool that will be around him are better than the players he's had at Frankfurt, which is no disrespect to them. That's just some teams are better than others, and Liverpool, won the Premier League, and they'll be one of the favourites to win it again next the season coming, and to progress in the Champions League. So I think Liverpool overall, the big thing for me is that it's all, for me, this summer, is a little bit like what I expected last summer to be like, where there is this kind of transition between one manager to a next. And I think they made a conscious decision last year because they've had all the upheaval behind the scenes and in the coaching staff, that they were not going to overhaul the team quite as much. In fact, they hardly overhauled it at all, did they? So that paid off with them winning the league. And Slot, he was brought in because his style of play wasn't too dissimilar to Jurgen Klopp, and they wouldn't have to sign a load of new players. He succeeded in that, and so all of that was justified. Now we've come to the point where, obviously, Trent left. You need a new right back. Obviously, Robertson's getting kind of towards the end of his time. They need a new left back. They looked at the number 10 position and went, well, we can get in this. And he is a generational talent in Wirtz, or Wirtz, sorry. Or Flo, as you call it.
Go with the Flo.
Mate, yeah. Spent the money on that. And they needed a backup goalkeeper because Keller was obviously going to leave. So they've addressed all those things. And going back to the point you were making about they've done well to bring the price down. If you look at all the players that they've bought so far, Kirkes was going for 45, they got him for 40. Wirtz, I think they wanted 150 million euros. Liverpool spent 130. Frimpong was different because that was a release clause. Yeah. And obviously they've managed to knock a few million off Ekitike. And that all counts, because if you can do that and you can then raise more money from selling your players particularly well, which I think certainly with Quansah they've done that.
Yeah.
Although we've discussed on a previous podcast that I wasn't massively keen on selling him, but there must be a reason for it. This is a sign of, Richard Hughes came in for a lot of grief, didn't he, last year? And the 6 months after that, where people are like, what's the point? Why is he there? Why are these players not signing these contracts?
Yeah.
And it turned out, obviously, that Van Dijk and Salah always wanted to stay and then have stayed. And I think Trent always wanted to have a different challenge. So they were never going to win on that one. And while I can't stand it when people say somebody's won the transfer window because you only really find out 2 or 3 years down the line. In terms of addressing the problems in the team or the issues or the places for improvement, so far, Liverpool have got in the players that they wanted, they targeted, and they needed. And so you can't really argue with them like that. And they got them in early as well. I mean, I know Ekitike, Hugo, see, you've got me second guessing now. He'll have missed a little bit of the warm-up. Still weeks to go before the season starts, so there's plenty of time for him to get involved and, and become accustomed to the way things work at Liverpool. And as we've seen in the past, though, certainly with striker, if you're a good striker, you can just step into any team.
Just going back to what we were saying at the start of that about his Champions League experience, 4 substitute appearances in a group of death against Benfica, Maccabi Haifa, Juventus, and maybe it wasn't a group of death, but then they had Bayern Munich in the round of 16, so he's got experience.
That was PSG, yeah.
Yeah, that was PSG. Yeah. So he has got a little bit of Champions League experience. He did well in the Europa last year. Liverpool usually do look for players who've got that European experience.
Well, he's only 23 as well, isn't he? So he's still young, and he does have that pedigree of having played, you mentioned at PSG, and he was... when he was at Reims, and we had this conversation the other day, is it Reims or Ream?
People think that all we do in the office is talk about how to say things correctly.
Oh man, so much, but we're actually quite good at it. It's just that when we then get, certain things, we've got like a bit of an issue with. I mean, I can't even speak English half the time, as people who listen or watch this podcast will probably agree with that as well. So, yeah, I think the only worry that some fans will have is that we may as well talk about this now then, is the whole Alexander Isak. Even I've got that wrong as well, haven't I? Is it Isak or Isaac?
I say Isak.
Isak, I was right, wasn't I? Isak, yeah. So it's that. Because Liverpool have obviously had a long-term interest in him. They quite clearly would sign him if they could. Newcastle, quite rightly, don't want to sell him. He's their best player and he's the most valuable player. So why on earth would you sell somebody to, if not quite a direct rival, but as you saw in the League Cup final, a team you can certainly beat. Yeah. Why on earth would you do that? But you look at the agent's comments.
They were interested.
They were interested. He openly admitted that, we're keeping our options open. We're assessing all the options and analysing them. And obviously, one of them is put pressure on Newcastle to give him a new contract because he quite clearly enjoys it up there. He spent 3 years there now. Yeah, so
joined the same summer as Nunes.
Yeah, so and he's proven himself there. So maybe that's his thing, is that he would like to go somewhere else. With Liverpool spending committing £79 million to one player, he's a central striker. Were you really then going to go out and spend 120, 130 million pounds on another one, even if you were invited to or could?
Well, this is the interesting thing, because you look at Liverpool's attacking options. They arguably need 2 strikers because what's happened with Diogo Jota, Nunes is expected to go. Diaz is an option there, but my gut feeling is Bayern will probably get him as things stand. Chiesa could go as well. So while you've got your starting front 3, Gakpo, potentially Ekitike, Salah, Frimpong's done well at the weekend playing as a right winger, Verts can go on the left wing, it still feels like they might need another 1 or 2 in there.
Yeah, but again, do you want to spend £200 million plus on 2 players, knowing quite well that very rarely are both of them going to be in the same team? If your tactics kind of repeat what you had last season, and these players prefer to play in the position that they played for the majority of their careers. I mean, it may be that Arne Slot said, look, if I want to get these 2, I'll get them and I'll play them here and there. Because we saw with Wirtz that part of the reason he turned down Bayern Munich is because of the clear vision that Slot had for him. And he's probably in, again, we'll go on to the Stoke friendly where we've only seen brief highlights of it because it was behind closed doors, where quite clearly Wirtz is playing as the number 10.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to what the manager wants and what the recruitment team are able to do in terms of the money and also in terms of the availability. And it's always been down to that. And I think as long as those three things combine, certainly as long as the manager and the recruitment team remaining in communication and in contact and quite clearly saying what they want and what's possible, then I think Liverpool have shown overall as a club over the past 10 years that they're very, very good at signing the right people, even if in terms of Slot and in terms of Hughes, this is the first real time we've seen the pair of them having had a bit of an understanding working together for 12 months, of them working together and picking the players that they want. So in that's where it becomes interesting because, obviously for the majority under FSG, it was Jurgen Klopp, and towards the end it was very much Klopp.
Away from transfers now, Liverpool are in Hong Kong. They travelled yesterday evening. 29-man squad went out, soon to become 30. Luis Diaz was there, Darwin Núñez was there, but no Federico Chiesa. What can you tell us about that?
A strange one, isn't it? Because he scored with 2 minutes to go in the friendly against Stoke, which they won 5-0 on Sunday, which finished around roughly 2 p.m. And then by 7:25, he was not going to the Far East because he got a minor issue. I'm not sure whether he must have hurt himself celebrating or something. I don't know, but obviously that's going to raise questions over whether he's being kept behind because he's getting sold, and it's quite an obvious assumption to make, and it may turn out to be a right one, but we'll only know over the course of time. But it's quite obvious that if they're spending that amount of money on a striker, they spent a lot of money on, certainly money on Frimpong, who has played. I think he played on the right wing against Stoke. I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah, he did.
He did, yeah. So again, we know that he was bought a little bit in mind with Salah disappearing for the Africa Cup of Nations later this year. He's a very attacking player, so he could be a Salah replacement, whether it's long term or not, depending on how Slot wants to play. Play his attack, because last season it was very much concentration on the wingers, which is why whoever was playing as the number 9 wasn't really getting the chances you would expect from number 9. But the fact that Liverpool finished top scorers in the league and scored 120 goals in all competitions suggests that there wasn't really a problem there overall for the team. It worked. They were kind of sacrificing themselves. But yeah, with what was the question? I completely forgot what the question was.
What's going on with Chiesa?
Oh, Chiesa, right. So Chiesa, yeah. So there is, let's be honest. He hardly got a look in last season. And I know a lot of fans are a bit confused as to why he didn't have more opportunities. But personally speaking, having seen him, I think he has struggled with the intensity of the Premier League when he's played. I know he came on in the League Cup final and scored a goal, but he was only on for like 10 minutes or something like that. That's not a lot of time. And against a Newcastle team that put an awful lot into the game, and by them were getting really, not nervous, but they could sense that they were so close to actually winning a trophy for the first time in 500 years or whatever it was. So if it was a gamble, and I don't think it's necessarily paid off, but because it was so reasonably cheap, the transfer fee for him, I don't think anyone's going to. And of course, he picked up he's played enough games to pick up a Premier League winners' medal. So for him, and he's had the experience of playing outside of Italy as well. So I think overall for him, even if he did leave tomorrow, I don't think it'd necessarily be a failure as such. I just think it would be just one of those things. Sometimes players don't fit into certain things, and I think his game is quite clearly not being what you would want for a Premier League forward, certainly one that plays like Liverpool. So, also the thing is that last season the argument was that he missed out on a full proper pre-season, and now
he's missing
because he's going to miss out on the tour as well. So it's already set him back, even if he doesn't end up leaving.
Now, I might look a little naive here, might end up with egg on my face, but I'm going to believe that it's more a fitness thing than transfer, because I just don't see why they'd have played him against Stoke if something was lined up for him to go out. And Diaz is still there with the squad. Núñez is still there with the squad.
But then the thing is, of course, is that Diaz hadn't been involved so far in the summer, and they probably knew that Hugo was going over because they were quite confident they'd complete the deal. So maybe they just went, it's just not worth the risk if he has got an issue. And also, if you've got a small injury problem, last thing you want to do is sit on a plane for 14 hours or whatever have you.
Was it Naby Keita getting a neck injury? Going on
to be fair, he's probably not the only one. I think we've all been on long haul flights, so it can be a bit painful when you get off.
As we've mentioned, Diaz is there. I think you wrote a piece on him at the weekend saying that the anticipation is Bayern will come back in for him.
Yeah, I think I mean, to be fair, we said that at the time when their initial bid was rejected, and I think the noise from Germany is that they're going to have another go, and they're getting not increasingly confidence, but the fact that they're going back in again suggests that they do want him. Again, if we're talking about comments from agents and comments from players, that what DS said back in June about, we're keeping our options open, we're in talks. I think he'd be quite happy to stay at Liverpool. But as I mentioned on a podcast previously, I don't think Liverpool are massively keen to offer a 28-year-old a new massive lucrative contract when they've already done so with Van Dijk and Salah, who are two players who've gone outside of the usual kind of model that FSG like to use. But if you're going to do it, do it with literally the best centre-back in the world and one of the best attackers in the world.
Before we move on to the Stoke friendly, you did offer a little injury update on Alexis McAllister. Obviously, he is out in Hong Kong. We can now confirm that he's with the squad. He's not played yet in pre-season, missed the last few games at the end of last season, missed international duty, of course. Any concerns there? Because that's quite a long absence for a minor injury.
We still don't even know what the injury is, do we? We know that it's obviously something that he played through and was nursing for the second half of the season. And I don't know whether, because Liverpool and Argentina, to be fair, have been very quiet on this, so we don't know whether he's had any kind of surgery or something. But the suggestion at the time was that he just needed to rest to help it. But yeah, he missed the last couple of games. He missed Argentina's World Cup qualifiers, although they've already qualified anyway. And while he has been back at the start of pre-season, he's not played in the games, and he's not really trained properly often, if at all, with the first team as a collective. He's been doing his own individual program, so it maybe just has been a case of bringing him back up to speed. But the fact that he's gone out to Japan and Hong Kong initially suggests that he's going to, he'll play some part in at least one of those games. And of course, he probably just wants to go over as well just to be part of the group, because everybody needs to, see, how can I put this? Obviously, recent events have kind of brought the squad together, and I think being away and all being together like that can only help in the process of trying to recover from what's happened.
Reminder, we are live on YouTube, so get your questions and comments in. We've had a few already. We'll get to them.
Go on, let's
do you want to know? I was going to do Stoke first. Okay, we'll get three now. Being bossed around here by Doyley. I've seen one that was on Rodrigo. There's been plenty of links with him, I suppose, overseas, whether Liverpool could go for him. That will link in with what happens with Diaz. Any chance of Liverpool signing Rodrigo from Real Madrid?
Well, the recruitment team were on to him years ago, weren't they, before he went to Real Madrid? Yeah, so it's certainly a player that they've known all about. But, there's that much going on at the moment that, I don't know, could be, couldn't. Who knows?
Anime Kuhn says, when is the Hugo Ekitike medical? That's tomorrow. That one we can answer quite easily, can't we? Front six of Isaac, Ekitike, Gakpo. That's just ambitious, isn't it? Throwing in Rodrigo and Malik Fofana as well. I think that's just more a comment.
Did you check these before we actually asked?
No, I've not been looking at them. That's what I was going to do them later. I was giving myself time. In relation to the centre backs, we've been linked with anyone. Is anyone else worried about their lack of height? Mark Gay, 6 foot. Gerald Hatto, 6 foot. I can understand that they're not definite links, but still. It's a hard one, isn't it? Because you've still got Virgil van Dijk's massive, Ibrahima Konate's massive, but Frimpong's quite short.
Well, it's funny enough, when we went with the friendly at Preston, one of the first things I said was Frimpong and Kerkez are quite small. Possibly. That should come into the thinking, though, shouldn't it? Because Quansah wasn't exactly short, was he? No. So I would be looking to that, because Joe Gomez isn't exactly massively tall, but what I would say, if you look at the stats, he's always very good in the air. Mm-hmm. So you do need players like that, because just because you want to play a certain way doesn't mean other teams aren't going to play a different way. And there's always weaknesses in every team. And, if you've got players who can head it away and set piece come into the box, look at Arsenal. They were not averse to putting the old set piece in. In fact, they nearly won the league a couple of times, just not on the basis of that, but with that being a significantly contributing factor. You want to keep all your bases covered. So I hadn't really thought about that, but you can't just have a load of, I say shorties, they're all taller than me, and I'm massively taller than you. So, one of those.
David Hanlon says, has there been any update on Robertson to Atletico? It seems to have gone quiet the last few weeks. Has he decided to stay? I thought Atletico signed someone else as a left back, to be honest.
It was off 3.5 weeks, so I'm not entirely sure whether they signed somebody else. I mean, what I would say is that if you've got Kirkes, Tsimikas and Robertson, they can't all stay, can they?
It's been interesting.
Get sold, so it's between Robertson and Tsimikas.
It's been interesting. Kirkes has had the two halves at left back, whereas Robertson and Tsimikas have done one at left back, one at centre back. So it would suggest it's going to be one or the other. And at the moment, your gut feeling would probably be Robertson stays, Tsimikas goes.
Yeah.
But it just depends on the offers. We're pretty much covered if there's any realistic world in which Isak signs. Newcastle would have to make him available for transfer, but Liverpool are spending a lot on another striker. Do you know how much they're pocketing for the Asian tour? Is that one we should have asked Dave Powell last week?
Should have asked him, but also obviously Paul Gort's going to be doing one, if not two, podcasts from the Far East where they'll. How's that going to work, Ian? Can we hear you? Go on. How's that going to work?
More than likely over StreamYard.
Now, what does that mean to no one who knows what StreamYard is? i.e. everybody apart from us three.
Well, not in person. It will be a remote podcast.
A remote podcast, so basically like Zoom.
So yeah, hopefully either you, Theo, or Joe will be on the other end.
I won't be. I'm on holiday.
Okay, but it's
You or
not
Joe,
going to be. It's not going to be good. Well, the point being is that we're going to get words from our tall. He'd be good at centre back. He's tall Paul Ghost.
He likes playing up front though.
I thought he was midfielder, wasn't he?
Or maybe more number 10.
Well, maybe more doesn't have to run around, just stands in the same position.
I think that's all of us these days, isn't it?
Yeah, he's going to be. He'll provide us with some information because he's going to go. I would assume he's going to go and speak to Billy Hogan when he's out there, Liverpool's chief exec, and hopefully speak to one or two of the players and speak to the manager as well. So stay tuned to the Echo website for exclusive content from Mr. Paul Gorst live from the Far East.
Now, Wilson says he's happy with the Ekitike deal.
Wilson?
Yes.
Is he like the basketball in Castaway?
It doesn't look like that's his picture, no. If you're still watching Wilson, tell us what you think of Castaway. Sure, why not? But he says, is anyone worried that we keep saying that Ekitike is not this great finisher? Call me old-fashioned, but shouldn't that be top of the list for a number 9? Now, I look at this two ways. Yes, he's apparently an underachiever in terms of XG, but he's still got 15 goals, and I think he got like 8 or something assists. So he's obviously doing decent things in the final third.
He had the most shots in the Bundesliga last season, and he hit the post the most times, along with Woodward the most times, along with Wirtz, and I know a couple of other players. And yeah, it's assists that was interesting for me. Didn't realise he'd had quite so many as he has done. So yeah, again, as I've mentioned before, I think the way Liverpool play, your main number 9, if they do play the same as last season, isn't going to be getting Salah numbers of goals, but I think the expectation is that they can get a few more than they got last year.
Nabil says, breaking news from Fabrizio. Hugo is flying in today for his medical and will join up with the squad in Asia. That's not breaking news. You wrote that 2 hours ago?
Well, he's meant to be tomorrow, his medical, and
he'll be flying in today.
Yeah. And he's linking up. So, well, it's just people who don't read the Echo websites.
Yeah, read the Echo
Shame.
website now, Bill. Doyley, this one is specifically for you.
Oh, I wonder what this is going to be about. Go on.
It's not even about anything random. It's about Konate's contract. Right. What is the probability that he stays? But you've been tagged in this.
Oh, it's because I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stays. There you go. Stays for how long? Stays for this summer or stays for more than...
What are your views on him signing a new contract, probability that he stays?
Well, probability, I think, if he hasn't signed it by now, I actually don't think he will sign it. That's why I genuinely think that he will be gone by the end of this season, if not earlier.
I thought it was also interesting that it was Gomez who started alongside Van Dijk, not Konate.
Well, don't forget Konate, both of them they hadn't played a single game, so I think they wanted to give them both 45 minutes, but not necessarily alongside each other.
But it could have been the other way around. It could have been Konate and Van Dijk.
Yeah,
could have been a partnership.
True, to be fair.
But that might just be reading too much into it. We'll find out.
That's the thing, is that we've done this job long enough to know that there are some things you can read out of pre-season. I think the biggest thing about pre-season is that if you win loads of games, it technically doesn't matter. But if you lose loads of games, it sometimes can because of the momentum.
We saw it Nunes' first year, didn't we, when they got battered by United?
I was there, yeah. That was in the Far East as well. So, yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen to Liverpool this time around.
Joey asks, what sort of involvement do you see for the likes of Angama and Trey and Yoni this season?
I think we addressed it in the last podcast. In fact, we addressed every single time we've done a podcast since I've come back.
We're interested in the office.
Exactly, yeah. I would imagine that those two are very much high on the list of next in line that are coming through the academy. I think, in fact, I know they're going on the tour, so is Lucas Stevenson. So is somebody else going? I can't remember who it is. Who else
The
is
goalkeeper,
going on?
Ben Doak, as well.
Ben Doak, you can count him, yeah. But I think with those two, I can't see them going out on loan. Certainly not for the first half of the season. As I've said before, I think it depends on who they get in the League Cup. If they get a nice draw, they can play in that. They could possibly get minutes off the bench in the Premier League, certainly in the Champions League.
Yeah. Do you expect them to rotate for the easier games in the league phase this time?
I don't think they're going to be pressing quite as much, given the fact that the reward for finishing top was to end up playing the team who ended up going on and winning it. And by the way, everyone forgets that they only lost to them on penalties.
Yeah.
Admittedly, they were quite a couple of not great penalties, although not as bad as the penalties. If anybody watched the Women's Euros,
Is that 10 points?
That's not. Hang on, that's not 10 points. What are you talking about?
He nodded.
I was about to say is that if you actually watched it, it was actually quite a good game. It was actually quite an exciting game, actually. Certainly, where England came back, but those penalties weren't great. So yeah.
Right, we will get to Stoke now, as we've been promising it all podcast long. What highlights have you watched? Have you seen the short highlights? Have you seen the extended ones?
The short ones.
Okay, I've seen the extended ones, so we'll start with something that's in both.
Let's just put a bit of context in first. Basically,
Okay.
It was a behind closed doors friendly, which obviously no one could attend, hence being behind closed doors. And we only found out about it when
Half time, wasn't it?
yeah, half time. It says 4-0. It says, is it? Oh, right. So that came from the club themselves. And yeah, it was only later on in the evening where the club released not the full game. It was either the goals or the bite-sized highlights or the extended highlights, which you watched.
Yes. Do you want me to go into those? Okay. One of my main things I took away from it was Jeremy Frimpong looked very, very good in that second half. He was playing as a right winger and he was involved in so many chances. He's eventually creating a goal for Chiesa because it's his cross to the far post that Gakpo puts back across goal. But there were so many chances where he's put a cross in, he's beaten his man, and someone should score. There's like Lucas Stevenson blazing over the bar. Doak hits the post after Chiesa's shot's blocked. Gakpo has a good effort saved, and this is all coming from Frimpong down the right-hand side. So if he is an option as this Salah alternative, it's one to watch. That was a great start for him.
But I did see in the first half, Salah seems as though he was playing quite well, though. He put some good passes in.
It's a great pass.
Exactly,
was it the third or the fourth goal?
I think it was the third one. Yeah, third one. Yeah, it was the third one because it was to finish Nunez's hat-trick.
Now, you have seen Nunez's hat-trick, so you can give us a bit more detail on that. They were good finishes.
Well, they were strikers' finishes, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, the first one was quite reactive because Wirtz tried to put in Szoboszlai, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who will come on to him again in a minute. Keeper saves and it comes out to him and he puts it in.
It wasn't saved. It was a little
was it a
deflection.
block? Was it deflection?
Defender slides in, cuts out the pass,
right.
and it falls to Nunez.
And the other two were getting his toe on the end of crosses into the box, which is what you want the striker to do. And we've spoken so many times about Nunez, but the reality is that he's played for 90 minutes in the last week and he scored 4 goals.
Found his level.
And he can't, well, both against championship teams, and you can't do any much more than that.
No.
But I don't necessarily think that anything that happens to him will be determined by how he plays in the next couple of weeks.
Which is a shame, because if he's fighting for his future, he's doing a damn good job at the moment. That gets 2 assists of sorts, if we count him for that first one. But he definitely sets up Engamoa. Nice little link-up play with both Engamoa and Curtis Jones in the build-up there. We haven't seen too much of him in the highlights, just his involvement in those goals. But that second assist, it comes from him leading the counter-attack on the edge of his own box, turning, starting the move, then the pace to get forward as well. You certainly glimpses there of what you want to see from him. You can see why he's so highly rated.
Yeah, well, the word from the training ground is that they're all thinking, oh, he's quite good, which is always good when you can win over your teammates like that. I think, again, he was brought in, specific role in mind, number 10, and he's started there against Stoke. As you say, he had a hand in 2 of the goals. But I just quite like the way, again, we're only going off the brief highlights that we've seen, that he's already linking up with teammates, certainly with Salah as well.
Yeah.
And I think what you find with the very best players, we've said this so many times, Van Dijk's a good example of this, is they bring a bit more out of the other players around them. But all the really good players recognise when other players are really good and they can kind of trust them. And as I've said this so many times, we saw that with Harvey Elliott coming through. The team were on board with him straight away. And I think we've seen that with Rio, Ngumoa and Trey and Yoni.
Definitely saw it in the highlights yesterday.
I think they, because they've trained with him for so long, I think they don't have any problems with him. And I think also to a certain degree, Lucas Stevenson as well.
He's a bit older though, isn't he, Luca?
He's got far more experience as well in terms, because he had a full year, didn't he, in Scotland with Dundee United and was voted their Young Player of the Year.
We'll stick with Trey and Rio because I know them as well, so I'm going by full first name. Trey Nyoni gets involved in the first 2 goals, I think. It's his pass to Wirtz for the first, and then a great interception from him for the second. Plays out to Szoboszlai. He looked really lively again, having done well against Preston. And Ngumoa, it's a deflected one, but it's a great finish from him for his first goal with the first team.
Do you forget how young these players are?
Yeah, 16 and 18.
Exactly, and only just recently 18 as well. So they've got a long way to go. So we say on this podcast, but everyone just... Because there's so much content these days and everything's content driven rather than actual facts and opinions, that you just have to fill all these gaps and people just want to talk about these players, and there doesn't seem to be the same level of patience, but it does take time for them to come through. I know people can pick out like a Wayne Rooney and Everton who comes straight in, bang, and it's like, well, he's massively the exception to the rule. Again, go back to Harvey Elliott, plays a couple of games for Fulham, joins Liverpool at 16, doesn't feature very, very much in his first season, then goes on loan to Blackburn for the second season, and he does very well there, but at a slightly lower level, and comes back. So that was
straight in the start.
Exactly,
when he
yeah,
came
exactly. Yeah, and that was two. And then he got injured not long after that. So, he kind of, it took him a couple of years to get up to speed to what was required at Liverpool, and that was with the benefit of a loan move as well, and obviously Ngumoa and Nyoni haven't had that yet. So again, this season, if they end up starting each of them, if the pair of them end up starting, for example, 5 senior games and making 5 or 6 substitute appearances, that's still massive progress for them. Massive progress.
And we'll finish on Chiesa. I know we touched on him earlier not being in the squad, but he actually did really well if you look at the extended highlights in the second half, because he gets his goal, it's a tap-in, but he's so involved for the rest of that half. He could have had a hat-trick, and it's not as though it's bad misses. It's like a little deflection just wide, or a shot that only just goes over the bar. He plays in Ben Doak, I think, who's denied at the near post by the keeper. I can only say he's maybe not suited to English football in terms of the physicality, but
it's the intensity.
It comes by playing, though.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's ever doubted his talent. I mean, you only had to see that you watched him in the Euros, didn't you, in 2021, and he was probably
scored 2 stunners in the 2 Italy games, 2 of the 3 Italy games I saw.
And he was decent in the last Euros where Italy were absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any doubts there, but you can only go by what you see. And also the manager head coach, sees him training every single day. And Liverpool won the league with 4 games to spare, and got to a League Cup final. And then they got knocked out of the FA Cup, and that was one game where he was playing and it was particularly awful. He wasn't the only one on the day. It was a very much changed team. So unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
Just have to wait and see with so many players having these question marks against their
there's
futures.
a lot of you're looking at it, there's a handful of players who are now out in Hong Kong who may be gone by the end of the summer. You look at Doak, you look at Diaz, you look at Nunes, you look at Chiesa,
Elliott, Morton.
That's 6. And that's not counting possibly Stevenson going out on loan. And maybe, we mentioned before, but whether or not they decide to do something with some of the others, we'll have to wait and see.
That's all we've got time for today. Thanks to Doyle for joining me. If you're lucky, we might get 1 or 2 bonus editions from Gorsty in the Far East. So keep an eye on the Blood Red channel for that. Hopefully he'll be making the most of his Salia subscription, of course, to log on. In the meantime, we'll be back at the back end of the week. Are we talking Thursday or Friday, producer Ian?
Friday.
Probably Friday for your usual end of week episode of Blood Red. With any luck, next time we're podding, Hugo Ekitike, or as Doyle wants to call him, Ekitike. No, that's completely. What did you say? That's the third one. What did you say?
Ekitike.
I'm not going to try. I'm going to stick with how I can say it. Hopefully, by the end of the week, next time we're podding,
Pogging? What's pogging? What's going on
I've gone.
Have you ever done this before?
No.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Ekitike.
Okay, let's just have a go at Kiefer again. You just couldn't be bothered, could he? Yeah.
I wouldn't have had to do this. We wouldn't have had this moment if Kiefer had been hosting.
You know what he is? He's a scummy man.
Scummy man. But yes, next time we're podding. Is he going to host the next one?
I don't think we should have him in.
What, one pod ban? Okay. Next time we're podding, hopefully Hugo Ekitike will officially be a Liverpool player. I've just said that name a different way yet again. I'm not on the next podcast. I'm on holiday, so you won't have to put up with me next week. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.